in ease of doing business, 4 areas that we look at. One is registration of business. How long does it take to register a business? Either with CAC or with the state authorities. Another one is dealing with construction permits. You want to get, especially CAC, big businesses, they want to construct a warehouse or they want to construct an ultra-modern market. How long will it take them? You know, we know that sometimes what happens in the past, right? See the speed. I mean, I came here the other day and I saw that they finished this fence and there are gates. Yeah, for 24 years we were grappling with. I mean, if a secretariat does not have gates, and you know we keep hearing about people breaking into offices because something as simple as a gate is not there. So even the security men are overwhelmed. You understand? If you are here, they could come in from here. But if you have gates, you are at those gates, and if you have CCTV, there are some things that make life easy. So dealing with construction permits, the length of time it takes to get permits, you know, I was telling you, I said what happens most times is when you are constructing, that you will know that there are people that are in charge of giving permits, right? That's what happens, because you don't even know how to go about it. So you just start building, then one day you come, you see X on your list and they write something. Then maybe they put a phone number, you call them, they come, you now negotiate by your fence, and yet you have something, and they allow you to plaster even what they painted on you. But that's not, because that way, government does not even get government is not aware that you even got it from. Everything is shrouded in. So there's dealing with construction permit. There is enforcing contracts. So to enforce contract is also another key thing. And when we talk about enforcing contracts, what it means is that the law allows you to seek redress quickly when you are cheated. So let's say you pay somebody for a business and the person does not do it, right? Or you even pay government, or you have a contract with government and you're supposed to mobilize or you're supposed to use your fund and they pay back in 6 months. And after 6 months, you will be able to. After 1 year, you will be able to. You know, the general impression we have is that you can't sue government. Do you understand? Because you sue, in those days, you sue government. They give the judge something. The case, 10 years, you are still at a time. Even you will retire, right? So, but now, provided numbers are small businesses, because a lot of these things you are talking about, how do they affect businesses at the local level? We've been able to have alternate dispute resolution arms of the court, and recently, as part of ease of doing business, the judiciary was able to create what we call small claims court. The idea of small claims court is that anything that has to do with 5 million naira or 10 million naira or less, you should be able to resolve it within 1 week. So you go to the court, there is a section, right, where now before small claims court, they used to have what they have called multi-door court. So if you have issues with your landlord, they take you to those ADR. So that really has to do with some level. But now small claims court is even within 1 week, because the other ADR, sometimes it takes 3 months. You are supposed to resolve your matter within 3 months. But now with the small claims court, you should be able to resolve your matter, especially if it has to do with funds that are 10, 5 million and below within 1 week. So judgment and everything is done within 1 week. So it's also part of ease of doing business. Then another is getting property or registration of property, which I talked about, which we spoke about, getting a C of O. That's actually the key thing in getting property, because if you don't, and that has really affected a lot of businesses from coming into town. Some people, we've had people who had experiences, they even got to government in the years past, and sometimes they got 100 plots or 20 or 30 hectares of land, and they build something very big. Then maybe the day that particular owner of that listing decides to resolve one position in politics and another, and maybe they feel it's not the party in power, the first thing they make will to revoke the license of that land handling. So, instead of him campaigning, he's now pushing because he has his property and see that the government wants to use the land for agriculture. So these are all things that have made businesses to be a problem. And again, the registering of businesses, there's what we have now and which we are going to improve, which this particular project is going to make stronger. We call them one-stop shops. What's a one-stop shop? A one-stop shop is an office of government, usually under either the SME department or the BR. But what basically, like there's an office here, I don't know if it will be, but recently this particular project provided some equipment. A one-stop shop is a place where you can get almost everything you need registered within 48 hours. So let's say you want to do a CAC, you want to pursue your C or O, you want to pursue signage, you want to do your tax. Even if it takes more than 48 hours, that is, you get to an office, equal within, they will handle it and you can go to sleep. If that is not done, you will be moving from one office from one end of town to another. You go and do a feeder with here, also. But this one, with a one-stop shop, you will pay extra, but you are getting your service. So all you got to is so, right? Maybe you are paying 5,000 extra, you are paying 10,000 extra, but it is sure that within 1 week everything is done, and you don't even need to be there to be following it up. Why won't you do that? And it's going to be more, it's going to generate more income for government. So that's really it about ease of doing business. And basically we're also, where we're going, the professors will teach us the various things we'll do to harmonize, revenue collection and revenue policies also. So what? For those who want to, there's just a small exercise we do in the next 5 minutes. Later, it's for us, it's not for you. For those who want to, because I am Chuck and we want to go straight to the prof. This prof, correct? Okay, you're welcome. So, prof is here. So what we'll do is that we'll give these papers to those who want to indicate what do we want. What if you have an expectation? Because again, we'll have a time for questions and answers when we are done. But what we want now is if there's an expectation when know before you hear this, you just write it. Because what we want to do is that we want at the end of these 2 days to be able to see how much of your expectations we've been able to meet. If there are some expectations that are out of place, right, we'll still address it before this meeting is over. It's okay. That you said your expectation is not within this, but we will, you understand, we'll see how we'll address it. So if you want to write an expectation, right, we are not going to read it here, it's for our internal listening, but it will help us to know in the course of the training, are we be able to answer everybody's question. Though there will be also a time for general open questions and answers, especially focused on the presentation that will be made. So when you try to get something, so that we do within the next 5 minutes, we collect and we will it will help us also with our reporting. To say these are what the expectations were. At the end of the day, we're able to meet 80% of them. We're able to. Okay, so I'll be passing on. Who are the people I'm reading? Okay, Okay. I pick up. Thank you. Please,
hear from our chairman, who is going to be represented by Mr. Chibuke Okonoka. So please go ahead and
let me start with the place of the chairman for now. But on a brother that is here because then we will teach for such a day like this. Let me also appreciate Dr. Charles on behalf of the UNDP. I think these are Abia State tax men. These are Abia State food soldier tax matter covering the whole place about the state. So there are some other parties that come later at that time. So let me first of all welcome you all to the training program. I want to enlighten us more. This project was supposed to have come up around May last year. Because of the transition program, it was put on hold. But thank God for our able governor, additional governor, who knew the need for this. So today is our life. And I'm employing each and every of us to be fully into it, get the best out of it. Because for UNDP to have, partnered with the government, other states, the federal government and other bodies, and also to get facilitators in the person of professors in serious. So for us, I think we've been watching the ground, obviously, the ground, doing our best, which we're doing now. And I'm employing you as colleagues, please let us give our best to get the best out of this program. Thank you and very much.
I'm a professor of accounting and taxation at the local university of the I'm elated to be in your list. Thank you for inviting me. This afternoon, we have to rub our minds together on a topic that only requires of policy and evaluation of tax expenditures. and I want to domicile it in Nigeria. The importance of quality evaluation of tax expenditures in Nigeria. Let me start this way. Why do governments incur tax expenditures? What is the essence? What is the purpose? I would love to make it a more of an interactive session. So, what is tax expenditure? By the way, what is it all about? Why is it important that we do quality evaluation of this expenditure? All of this we shall be looking at today. So, I've given you my name, so I'll be asking questions. You know, I'm a teacher. So, and at the end of this lecture, I will give exam. I will mark it, and I will publish the result. Today. All right, so what do you understand by tax expenditure? I want one of the reactions. Tax expenditure, what is it? It mustn't be a professional definition. What do you think it is? Let me hear you. Yes, sister.
I feel tax expenditure is any expenses incurred on the process of administration
Okay. The expenditures incurred in the process of administering tax. Okay? Any other definition? Any other? Let's see whether that aligns with what we have here. So for us to go through this course, we shall follow the following outlines. We shall look at the definition of tax expenditure. We shall look at the sources of types of tax expenditure. And then we shall look at the essence. What's the essence of quality evaluation of tax expenditures? We shall look at tax expenditure and government spending. We shall look at the effect of tax expenditure on national budget. And then we shall also look at the evaluation of tax expenditures. Types of evaluations we have. We shall look at the steps to conducting quality evaluation of tax expenditure. We shall look at the criteria to ensure quality evaluation of tax expenditure. We will look at countries who have regularly evaluated their tax expenditures and are doing very well. We shall also see how to conduct this evaluation and then how to ensure that quality evaluation of tax expenditures. These are some of the items we are going to look at. So, what is tax expenditure? Perhaps by the time you get this paper, it will make more sense to you. What is tax expenditure? Tax expenditure describes revenue losses attributable to provisions of tax laws which allow special exclusions, exemptions, or deductions from gross income, or which provide special credits, preferential tax rates, or deferred tax liabilities. There are those losses incurred by government as a result of provisions made to allow some class of taxpayers not to pay tax. An aggregation of all those revenue losses is what we call tax expenditure. an aggregate of all those provisions. We have a lot of provisions. We have investment allowances, annual allowances, tax holidays, all of them, pioneer status, all those provisions that reduces the tax liability of the taxpayer, which ordinarily would have been an income to the government, is what we regard as tax expenditure. Are we together? Yes. Good. Now, so, permit me to see, please. So we said there are government losses arising from tax exclusions, exemptions, deductions, credits, deferrals, investment and annual allowances, free tax zones, special provisions. All those incentives that government provide to taxpayers to reduce their tax burden. An aggregation of it is what we regard as tax expenditure. According to Fakile and others, tax expenditure are usually defined as deviation from benchmark tax systems, which give rise to revenue losses. When taxpayer A is supposed to pay, say, 100,000, but because there is a credit is enjoyed, it's now paying 80,000. That 20,000 naira, which should have been a revenue to the government, is now what government is losing. That's what we call tax expenditure. And you will all agree with me that there are so many tax incentives by the government of Nigeria. So many. But one thing is obvious. One thing is important. These provisions, these incentives are not given for the fun of it. They are given to achieve specific purposes. For instance, there is a waiver of tax on importation of educational materials. Am I correct? Am I correct? Yes. Good. Now, meaning that those importers of educational materials, if there was no such waiver, they would have paid a certain amount to government as revenue. And government will say, we are ready to forgo this revenue for a particular purpose. Now, that purpose of forgoing that revenue, is it being achieved? That is the import of our discussion today. Otherwise, why should we continue to forgo the revenue if the purpose of forgoing it is not being achieved? That's the essence of the evaluation of this tax expenditure. Therefore, the consequence of all these incentives is that the tax expenditures may lead to permanent reduction in taxpayers' liability. Example, tax exemptions, concessional rates, tax credits, or provide a time advantage by deferring the recognition of income and advancing the allowance of deductions, or delaying the payment of tax. So the consequence of making this provision is that a lot of revenue is lost. The chairman, while speaking a little earlier, said, no serious-minded government will not be serious with revenue. For you to run the government, you need what? Revenue. But then, why is Nigerian government saying, okay, no, we're ready to lose this. We're ready to lose this. So, we shall look at pictorially the situation of our country, Nigeria, with regards to the provisions we have made. And I will say, is it proper for us to continue in that direction? Or should we go back and do a review, evaluation of these expenditures to see whether they are even achieving the purpose? Are we together? Yes. Sorry, as a teacher, I'll be mixing some of this. Thank God nobody here is a child. If this, my friend here, has a particular girl he's looking at, and every morning he sends recharge card, girl didn't call. Send the second day, she didn't call. Then he called and said, sorry, I'm busy, I will call you later. Third day, fourth day, fifth day, okay, and the seventh day, will you send? No. So also it is with our situation here. There is need for the Nigerian government and fact state governments to review their tax expenditures to be able to identify, are we really achieving the purpose for setting up these provisions? If the purpose is not being achieved, why should we continue to lose revenue that should have come to us? So we look at types of expenditures according to Nigerian law. When we look at this table, we see that it's not very right.
There's a way I like it.
No, I think you will get this paper later, please. You get it. Now, if you get the various types of taxes we have, import duties and all of that, each of them has specific provisions, various kinds of provisions. The government has said, okay, if you are in this category, don't pay tax, or pay this rate, or pay it and this other time. There are so many of them. So many is a long list. And look at the consequence of that long list, my people. Look at the consequence of that long list. I know I have just 1 hour to talk, so I will go to the specific items. Look at the consequence. Let me show you my picture. This data was done from Nigerian Budget Office. And it says, these are the projections. Nigerians plan tax expenditure between 2020 and 2023. From CIT, corporate income tax, in 2020, Nigeria lost, this is in billions, 457 billion from CIT alone. In 2021, from CIT alone, it lost 543 billion. In 2022, it lost 653 billion. In 2023, 789 billion. Government that loses this kind of money, will you regard that government as serious? And I ain't talking about. Come to value added tax. In 2020, it lost 4.3 trillion from VAT alone. 4.3 trillion. Look at 2021, 3.87 trillion. Look at this, look at this. Look at the entire, each tax type you pick. Well, sorry, we're not able to give an exhaustive list, but you have a long list of amounts government lost by these provisions. By these provisions, tax credits, deferrals, and all the rest amounted to this. This data from the Nigerian Budget Office. Now you ask yourself, look at another disturbing issue. Look at CIT. Can you see that there is a growth? There is a trend of growth. So we are losing. We didn't check why we lost last year. We didn't check why. No problem. Nothing bothered us. We came to this year. We lost more. Nothing still bothered us. And so on, the thing has continued to increase up to 700 from CIT alone. Meaning that there are companies which ought to have paid taxes, but hiding under those provisions Nigerian tax laws have provided, are not paying those taxes, and government is losing. And yet, we are running to China to borrow.
It's crazy.
I don't know if whether you are aware that before we had handed over, we had about 87 trillion in debt. And the present government is making proposals to borrow more.
Okay.
Meanwhile, the ones that would have gotten, the ones who would have generated, we are not reviewing. We are losing. And why is this so? Because we are not paying attention to our revenue generation system. So that's why this study, or this discussion, is on the importance of evaluation of these expenditures. The importance is these provisions we made under CIT. Okay, is it achieving the purpose? What is the purpose? Is it achieving it? If it's not achieving it, should we continue to allow that provision? That's the importance. Now, in 2021, the total aggregate of these losses came to about so in 2021, tax expenditures it amounted to 6.8 trillion in 2021 alone. 6.8 trillion naira. We lost it. So, with this situation, with this, what should we do? What should a serious-minded government do? What a serious-minded government should do is to review these provisions. In Canada, they don't do annual evaluation, but they evaluate their provisions. Why? To find out what we say we want to achieve by this provision. Are we achieving it? If yes, they continue. Okay, if yes, to what extent has it improved? If no, they will just sell it. And all the companies, all the taxpayers within that net will begin to pay tax. In Canada, they have it as a policy that every 10 years, each tax expenditure provision must be evaluated. They have it in their law. It must be evaluated. And of course, they say that life not reviewed is not worth living. And anything you cannot measure, you cannot improve on it. The major problem we have is that we do not know, or maybe it cannot be brought to the attention of government what they are losing in these provisions. So, how do we move? So with this amount of revenue losses, the government should be serious with evaluation of tax expenditures. Let's look at the effect of the tax expenditures on the national budget. I'm skipping some areas because of time so that we get to more important areas. Number one, tax expenditures have not been integrated into the budget process for appropriation. So, there is no requirement to coordinate them. These tax expenditures, they are not integrated into our national budget. And because they are not, nobody is monitoring it, nobody is supervising it, nobody is ensuring that we don't lose more than we should lose. Number two, tax expenditures in reducing revenue received reduce the overall budget balance. What is the in this year's budget alone, Nigeria has projected deficit of 7 trillion. Abi? I will not look at the budget. This year's budget, 2024 budget, there is a projected deficit of 7 trillion naira. 7 trillion. But we are losing from areas we could have generated money. Now, if these revenues are collected, just like I said earlier, in 2021, we lost 6.8 trillion. So 6.8 trillion would have narrowed the deficit. But because the tax expenditure is not integrated in our budget system, we don't know, and the deficit keeps growing. The deficit keeps growing. Number 3, even though the main concern in developing nations like Nigeria are economic growth and poverty reduction, tax expenditure should have higher priority than direct revenue programs for infrastructure, economic growth, education, and health. Most poor people do not benefit from tax expenditures. 4, tax expenditures may provide an opportunity for abuse by government officials and legislators, either for self-enrichment or for the provide benefit to favored interests. When these provisions, when tax credits are to be granted, some tax officials evaluate the submissions of the taxpayer. And then some is discovered that some even connive with the taxpayer. Okay, put it this way, write the other one this way, so as to increase the provision, the allowance or the credit, only to go behind and collect his job. So in this paper, we are advocating that as much as possible, the issue of tax evaluation of the expenditures, evaluation of these provisions should be automated, such that the moment you kick in the right figures, you generate the right tax to pay. And there should be a post-tax audit to ensure that nobody is defrauding the government. Now, how do we do this evaluation? There are 2 categories of tax expenditure evaluation. One is ex-ante assessment, the other one is post-ex assessment. Ex-ante assessment is before you establish a provision. Okay, let me give you one. Sorry? Ex-ante. Ex-ante. Okay, good. That simply means before establishing that provision, you do sort of a study. Okay, let's say the Nigerian government wants to increase female school enrollment, for instance. Assuming there is a particular area where there is low female students enrollment and they want to increase it, they can build some schools and say, okay, anybody that will go to this school, don't pay school fees. That is to ginger the people to begin to go to school. That is your purpose. So, before establishing such provision, you conduct a study to find out whether this provision is even required. Is it necessary? Is it relevant? Is it timely to do so? That is ex ante. Then the other one is ex post assessment. After this provision has been instituted, you allow some years, and then you conduct a post-institution assessment of that provision to find out what we said we want to achieve, how much we said we're going to spend to achieve it. Why did we achieve it? what we said we want to achieve. That's why I love the paper distributed shortly before I started talking. You should state what you want to achieve, what you want to see achieved in this training. Okay? So that at the end of the day, you do not do a post-training assessment. I said I wanted to understand this. I said I wanted to know that. Now, did I know it? Sort of a checkbox. Did I know this? Did I achieve this one? Yes, you tick it. Did I achieve this one? No. You establish it. Such is what government ought to do for all those provisions that we have made to allow taxpayers some credit, tax incentives. Review them. Assess them. Each of them was set up to achieve a specific objective. It could have been set when Adam was a small boy. But from that time till now, how far have we gone? Have we achieved the purpose? At what cost did we achieve this? Is there a better alternative to achieving this? Is there what we should have done to achieve this? All of these are what you do in a review to ensure that the tax expenditure achieves the purpose of setting it up. Then, but for us now, the one that's we are more concerned about is the ex-post assessment evaluation process. Because it is expected, I expect, that the various tax provisions for tax credits and allowances in the state. But after now, since these, according to the chairman, these are the field soldiers of the state tax administration, I would expect that those allowances, those provisions, should well be itemized. I expect that this should be one of the outcomes of this interaction. Itemize them. Okay, we need to review this. We need to review this provision. Is it achieving the purpose for setting it up? So that if it is not, appropriate recommendation can be made to government. So that at the local level, we start correcting this imbalance in our system. If it is achieving it, fine. At what cost? So, what are the steps? What are the steps we need to take to do that evaluation? In case, if this my brother is appointed to chair the committee on the review of a particular tax law, a tax provision, he is to chair it. So what are the provisions, what are the steps we will take? Number one, I will expect that any committee or anybody appointed to review the provisions will first of all go to the literature. So I said review of literature, history, tax laws, and tax ante-evaluations. Review of literature, review of history, and review of tax laws. You go back to the books. What did the law provide? What did the law say about this? What was the purpose of stating this provision, stating this provision? By the time you have read it, you would have armed yourself with some information that will enable you, so that if you come to this taxpayer is enjoying provision X, Y, Z, and is within what you're supposed to evaluate. Okay, when did this guy enjoying it? 1980. Okay? You check. Did you submit this? Yes. Did you submit this? Did you submit this? Yes. Did you submit this? No. You didn't submit this? Yes. But it was part of the requirements that the taxpayer was needed to submit before before enjoying that provision. So you didn't submit this, yes. Maybe when tax administrator ABC came around, he said, you know, you're my brother. We are from the same local government. I bet approve this thing for me. So because it's from the same local government, so he approved it. So by right, this taxpayer, not even XY, this taxpayer was not supposed to enjoy that exemption. But because something happened along the right, he's enjoying it. So that after you have noted, you have read the law, you are acquainted with history, you know what should anybody enjoy this should have and what you should not have. You have gotten this information. You take it down, you note it. You go to the next one. That you get when you have properly read the law. Oh, yeah. I was coming from Enugu sometime last year. I will go to Okigwe. Those guys on white. Is it white and blue or white and black?
BIO.
Okay, BIO.
Yes.
Good. They stopped Abia, and coincidentally, the man carrying me, is a lawyer. So the staff was asked to be clear. He said, yes, okay, you are, he said, who are you? The man, the brothers asked, who are you? He said, I'm in VIO. Okay. The man asked him, are you supposed to be here? The guy kept quiet. He said, are you supposed to be on the federal road? You know what happened? The guy left us. I wanted to and he said, you can go. And of course, he entered our vehicle and they went. But then there are certain classes of road users that they will stop. They will clear you. Where is this? Where is that? Where is the other one? Of course, you don't have them. You begin to panic. You begin to negotiate. At the end of the day, you part with a certain amount, which ultimately will not enter government costs. So, but when you have armed yourself with what the law says, what the provision says, qualification for it, anybody you are confronted, you are equipped. That lawyer was able to confront them because he has the knowledge, he knows the law. VIO is not supposed to be on a federal road. Just like federal district is not supposed to be on the state road. But they stay there now. They stay on the state road and harass people. There is a subsisting judgment that federal road safety should not be on state roads, on local government roads. It should only be on the federal roads. But if you are not acquainted with the knowledge, they hear Kimugu. They hear Kimugu. And when they are in a desperate situation, they can do anything to you. So the first starting point is that you are properly read. You know the law. You are acquainted with the law. You have it at your fingertips. Anybody you are confronting, even if it's the government you are confronting, you will be quoting the law. And when you are quoting it, you know what you are doing. He will not be the approver. He knows the next chairman of the law. So, now after you have reviewed literature, then you meet stakeholders. When you meet the stakeholders, to find out how this incentive operates in practice. How this incentive operates in practice. And there are so many other things you will do. You surely will get this paper. Then the next point is develop your work plan, your evaluation plan. By the time you have read, you are acquainted with the law, you know how the system operates, you have met people in the field, maybe taxpayers, tax assessors, you have met them, you have gotten more information. Next is to develop your plan. Just like I said a little while ago, by the time we finish this interaction, I would expect that 1, 2, 3 persons will form themselves into call it a study group, review Abia State tax laws and provisions, identify one you think government has lost a lot of revenue, make a proposal through the chairman to the government for you to go and do deeper study, deeper evaluation on it. And by the time you do it, you see, this person is contributing. And government, there's no governor that will play with anybody that's contributing to his revenue profile. No. You think you are put by the side. If you need special advice, you say, yes, Mr. XYZ, please, what are you thinking about this? So that's the whole essence of this our interaction. So you develop a plan. Then next is you collect your data. Just like I was just saying a little while ago. If you are to review a particular tax law of the state that gets some provisions, collect data. Who are the people enjoying it? Who are the people? What are the addresses? How do I meet them? You identify the addresses. Of course, they have been paying some taxes, so how to get the addresses is not difficult. You get them. You approach them. Ask questions. With your developed plan, you begin to get some vital information. But as you do this study, be wise though, because if you go to the extent of being confrontational, somebody can come after you. Go in the form of you are eliciting information. You may not become direct, you may get your information indirectly. By the time you get information and make a recommendation, then you progress. Then you perform the evaluation and then you draft a report. One important component of this process is that report must be generated from the process and then submitted to whoever appointed you. But so when you have done that, you communicate your findings to the appropriate authority. Now let's look at the criteria to ensure quality evaluation of tax expenditures. The criteria: number 1, relevance and rationale. Relevance and rationale. Is it this tax, whether it is ex ante or post ex post evaluation? The one question you must answer is that this provision is relevant. If government says, okay, let us give some waivers to schools, okay, or to people that import educational materials, to encourage reduction of fees, maybe in the north, yes, it will be relevant, it will be necessary. But if they say, okay, let us waive it for the West, I don't think it is necessary. Reason? It will not encourage them to go to school because they already have high enrollment in schools. So reducing tax on educational materials for them will not achieve that purpose of increasing their school enrollment. They already have.
The Prof has finished what he said is leaving in the short term. But I think taking the census and from the view of the cases of colleagues here, they are working the mind of our staff here because for some years they've not integrated in it. And I think this is the beginning of it and more. So I want to use the opportunity to thank our prof here, who has done justice to this paper. And we are looking forward that sometime we also have, we not want to have them more,
Yes, yes.
Let us pray that God will also give the opportunity that will come back to update us. So, we want to use the opportunity to thank you very much and say, Prof, you're welcome, sir. We are very happy to have you and we'll use it to update ourselves. We will also give the executive chairman and tell him how we have felt under your teaching this session. So thank you very much, sir, and we pray for you to go have done this class.
Why we sorted this out. This is my pleasure to be here with you. And I want to especially send my greetings to the chairman of the board and then other key people here and the rest of us for paying attention to observe during the first lecture the earnestness and seriousness with which we took part while the presentation was going on, demonstrated by the notes that I saw you take. So that is very, very commendable. Building on what my friend has already done, we have something crucial to discuss now. And that's enhancing fiscal responsibility. Enhancing fiscal responsibility, the significance of proper reporting of tax transactions or tax activities in Abia State. Now there are two key words that are there. One, fiscal responsibility. But for us, what is key is proper reporting of tax transactions in Abia State. As we make progress, we are going to build on this, in particular, the recording aspect of what we are considering. Let's look at the outline. First, we are going to do an introduction to see the purpose of this presentation. Look at overview of current tax state in the United States. Thereafter, we will make progress to look at significance of proper reporting. Look at compliance and legal requirements. Look at accountability and good governance. We also look at technology in tax reporting. The other ones that we'll look at that I didn't put in the outline. Now, what's the purpose of this presentation? Now, this is supposed to be a practical session where we are supposed to build our capacity in the work we have been called to do. As we look at the intricacies of tax reporting, beyond the theory of its impact on development, our concern is how do we increase our working capacity in delivering on our mandate as tax officers in the various areas where we come from. I'm sure the mindset of the organizers of this program is that at the end of this program, going forward, maybe 3 months from now, or 6 months from now, or a year from now, if there's going to be an assessment, we should see a trajectory that is positive. That is, from where we are now, in terms of revenue we're mobilizing, if it is 100, we expect, as a result of impact of the capacity that have been built, that 1 year from now, we expect trajectory we can record in percentage that We were 100 before, we're now doing 200. We're now doing 150. We're now doing 150, we're now doing 200. That's how to measure the impact of this training. So it's beyond telling us all these theories and all these stories about taxation. We want to domesticate and see how this affects Abia State. These are the key players of Abia State tax system. How will this particular topic impact positively on you? And the elements we're looking at is recording tax activities, recording tax transactions. Now, if you look at the history, what Abia tax looks like, the last recorded report before this development, you are there, you can confirm. Abia was doing between 1 billion and 1.5 billion per month. You can refute it, but that's what is official. That is in a year. If you multiply 12 by 1.5, that's about 18 billion. So in that neighborhood, between 15 billion and 18 billion as of 2021. This is 2024. Abia does not have these accounts for 2023. No state has actually. I think some states have to 2022. And if we are doing 1.5 billion per month, then we look at other states in the southeast. That's a way to measure where we are standing. Can we rank Abia State? Yes. Abia is certainly behind Enugu State in terms of tax intake. Enugu State, that period, went beyond 1.5 per month, close to 2 billion thereabouts. Abia is also behind Imo State on the records, but Abia is ahead of Ebonyi State on the records. Of course, Abia is behind Anambra State. So, give or take, Abia is number 4 in terms of tax that is coming in thereabout. Now, in terms of population, all the 5 eastern states, Abia is also number 4, Anambra and Imo. We're talking about the record, it may be more than that. Anambra, Imo, and then Enugu, Abia, then we now have Ebonyi State. In terms of local governments, Abia is also around number 4. After Imo State, 27, Anambra State 21, Enugu State 17, Abia 17, Enugu State about 13. So number 4. Now, Ebonyi State is last. Ebonyi is last. That's what we now, if you now look at, if you now put it per capita, that is, the tax Abia generates per capita. That's a way to measure whatever we are getting. You now divide it by the population. Population of Abia from census, I told you, is beyond Ebonyi State only. Enugu is ahead of it from what is recorded. It may not be true, but that is the official record. We discover also per capita, Abia is doing number 4. Now, the challenge you have is, can we change this narrative? Is it possible to use this training to jumpstart and leapfrog perhaps the nearby states that will have the same local government number, will have almost the same parameter population? If we succeed in doing that 1 year from now, we can say that this program has succeeded. Now, where do we get it right? Is from tax recording. As the earlier speaker mentioned, you cannot progress or advance what we have not captured. If our revenue in a month is 1.5 billion, we should be able to break it down to the specifics. By specifics, we mean ensuring that every person is brought into the tax net Many people don't pay tax in Nigeria. And the reason is very, very obvious. Some tax officials, maybe not here, do not even know that there are so many other options available beyond the ones we have presently, from which also lots of income can be generated from the state government if we do the needful by raising bills to incorporate them as tax system in the state. But the place to begin is making sure we have proper recording. Now, we'll still come back to this, but the entire thing dovetails into fiscal responsibility. It is from two angles. Fiscal responsibility from the angle of those who utilize the money generated, and fiscal responsibility from the angle of those who work to assist in generating the revenue. When tax is considered as money that has come, which any person can use anyhow, that is fiscal irresponsibility. While we are blaming government that no person knows what they are using the money generated to do, we should also not forget that those who are the eggheads responsible for generating the revenue are also culpable in fiscal irresponsibility. That the money that should accrue to government that enters into private pocket, that is fiscal irresponsibility. And the title is Enhancing Fiscal Responsibility from our own perspective as the operators of the system. That if a certain amount of money already captured as tax payable, either by individuals or business units or other bases from which you collect government funds, and should be remitted to government, and eventually the remittances are not there, they are not seen. And from the angle of the payers, money actually has moved and people have paid, but in transit between the payer and the collector to government, you discover there are leakages. That's why recording is crucial. And that's why it's connected to technology. Using technology to eradicate or reduce to the barest minimum the incidence of leakages in the tax system. When that leakage is significantly reduced, we are going to discover an increase in revenue. Now, let's just say the obvious. Slide number 8, importance of tax transactions. Importance of tax transactions. We are already familiar with the help you to move this one. Importance of tax transactions. Okay? We remember that there are so many countries that don't have natural resources. They don't have oil. They don't have solid minerals. Some of them are situated in deserts, but they have higher per capita income than Nigeria. What's the magic? You have oil, they don't have oil. Have all kinds of minerals, they don't have minerals. Some of them are even landlocked. They don't have access to the sea. In spite of these obvious advantages Nigeria appears to have, yet they lag below some of these countries I'm going to mention in terms of what they're able to do with revenue they're generating. And all this revenue substantially accrue from taxation. For many countries of the world, their mainstay is taxation, not oil. If you have somebody residing in Europe or maybe in America, ask him, ask her. You will be amazed that almost everything is taxed. If you park your car, there's a parking fee and it's graduated in hours. You don't just park your car anyhow. No person begs you to overspeed. There are consequences. So the entire environment is structured in such a way that individuals support the government through compulsory taxation. We are not here yet. We are not even, that's not what we're looking at. But the area we're looking at is the importance of tax revenue. Tax revenue can sustain a state. Tax revenue can sustain a country. I told you some countries, they don't have oil. So many of them in Eastern Europe, so many of them even in Africa, so many of them. Yet they have high GDP. Why? They are leveraging on the advantages of taxation. And they are using technology to gather the windfalls available and possible through proper taxation. And this happened because they are using many of the technology to ensure that things move on well. Now, we know the obvious. If the government is doing road, it's no magic. It is your money, it is my money. Every expenditure of government is funded by taxation. All of them. Whether we call it petroleum profit tax, that is taxation of mineral. Or we call it company income tax, that's taxation of companies. Or we call it personal income tax, that is taxation of essence. Or capital gains tax, that's taxation of capital gains. And before we used to have capital transfer tax, which we don't have now. That's the taxation on the wealthy for transfer inheritance from A to B. So the important place of taxation, the place of taxation is quintessential. If you remove taxation, the government is going to collapse. If you remove taxation, government is going to collapse. Now, if taxation is the mainstay of government, then by all means, we should make sure that as players in the system, we demonstrate fiscal responsibility by keying into what we are looking at, proper reporting of transactions. And let's bring it home. You are coming from a local government. What does the revenue expect for you to submit? That's what we're talking about. What records are you expected to keep? The ones that have impact on revenue, there are many records that we keep. But to bring it home, we're saying for all the possible bases of tax, all the possible options and sources of tax available to state government, there should be proper record keeping. Beginning from assessment. And issue of demand notice. It is not enough to issue demand notice after making an assessment, whether based on the returns people have filed or rest of judgment. It is not sufficient to issue demand notice. We should have records that are concrete, that also should have duplicates that are extended to higher reporting authorities. So that, as the earlier speaker mentioned, there will be ex-ante investigation and post audits, so that at the end of the day, we'll be able to do comparison. The magic of moving forward, leapfrogging, jump-starting, and causing our trajectory of revenue to hit the peak, we are the eggheads that will make it happen. If we do what we should do, number one, we say demand notice. There are records for demand notice. There are records for assessments. That in a particular tax zone, tax district, that we're expecting from the let's say in our school, like a lot of our university, the argument has been on whether we are owing the university or whether the university is owing the board, or the other way around. And in our Senate, cause plenty problem. Because our people in the bursary were not giving the kind of record they should give. But if they can be spared for not keeping the record because they are the payers, those who are receiving what we pay cannot be spared for not keeping the record. What does it mean? It means that if the year, this is whether it is IPs or whatever mode of payment, that at the beginning of the year there will be an assessment notice. Prepare for each individual, not the entire university. You should have nominal role of the university. Is that right? And from that nominal role, each staff would not bill people on a mass as a corporate body. Tax is paid if it's personal tax per head. Professor A and Professor B are not on the same step. That's what we discovered. That all the professors were trying the same thing. But all the professors are not on the same level. Professor who has been there for 15 years, his salary is different from the person who has been professor for just 2-3 years. It's not the same. You know that, you know step now. Somebody who is on step 10 cannot be the same thing on step 5.
Yes, sir.
But we discovered that all the professors were paid something similar. That's a failure somewhere. So the high professors are shortchanging government. Then the lower professors are paying more than they should pay. It's a problem of assessment. And we have been running to see how to bring this reconciliation. So the point I'm making is, Abia has several sources available to it from which a lot can be accomplished if there is proper recording. So what we do for our university, do same for research and all that, using the law. And each individual has his own assessment. All the time I've worked in that university, I've never got any single assessment, not even a single one. I've been paid that. It's just between bursary and board and everything else like that. But I've worked elsewhere. That you have an assessment at the beginning of the year, you go and pick your own. And at the end of the year, board now writes a kind of receipt, tax receipt, that this individual staff, not all of them, this individual staff, but because it is pay as you earn, the entire document will come in a heap. You just go and pick your own. So it will not be easy for you to, if you are processing your TCC, you just gather the 3 days and come to this place. But we'll be having problem getting our TCC because we don't have anything to show. Number one, assessment. No person ever assessed us. Number two, we don't have anything to say where you paid anything. But we're seeing deduction. So where is the money going? Now, the money that is deducted on our behalf by the school, there should be remittance. The university is an agent, a payee agent. That's how it works. Payee agent for the board. But there should be a relationship between the board and then the university. And then at the end of the day, the board should demand the remittance. It cannot happen if you don't have records. What are you going to demand when you don't have records? We're getting new staff, no person is assessing them. Some other people are exiting, no person knows about it. Some other people are transferred from where we are now to another place. Some have exited the country entirely. It's a fluid situation that will require dedicated staff, detailed staff, who will continue to look at these things and make sure that payee, it is very, I pay about 60,000 every month. 60-something thousand. Every professor pays about 60,000 in a month. That's tax. That is true. That's true. It's about 600,000. So if you have 100 professors, multiplied by 60,000, then professors who have been there before us, some of them pay close to 70,000 per month. That's our tax system. So our university is a gold mine. But the question is, where are the records? The records are not there. So we challenged them when we came to meeting. We have not seen any assessment from the board. We have been charging, you have just been deducting money. No person knows what's happening. Money that is collected, no receipt has been given. And that is what we're talking about. Because we don't have proper recording. And it is not rocket science to raise assessment, distribute. You have an idea. We're expecting 100 million from Umudike. And then it is spread throughout this. That makes it simple now. It's the relationship between government. So we'll now write a bill based on what we have, and then federal government transfers. And that's what happens for us, also should happen for other federal establishments. Now, significance of proper records. That's what we're saying. We almost had a riot in school because before we joined IBIS, federal government said they had paid everything concerning every staff to the appropriate state government. One of the conditions, and then staff agreed, let's join IBIS. Then 2 years down the line, government now said they discovered we are still going there, and they started making massive reduction from what government has already paid. Also no proper record. And there's no staff who can show you evidence that he paid anything, but they have been deducting tax. So what is it going to cost the IRS, Abia Revenue Service, to generate records? Make it available to those who pay tax. And at the end of the day, each year as it ends, return those documents on staff basis, so that each staff who has paid, you have already collected the money from federal government. He just generates the receipt, give to them. You discover there are many leakages down the line there, so many leakages. And where that money, because the second one will pay, no person knows where the money went to. No person. So if the operators tell themselves the truth, if we want to move the revenue trajectory to what we expect it to be, it is in our hands. If there are leakages, it is our hands to block the leakages. But you don't block what you don't know. It is what you know that you have recorded that you can start blocking. So that is the issue we are talking about. You people are laughing, you know what we are saying. Okay, so this responsibility will help to build trust between taxpayers and tax authorities. So when we came here, we were looking at all of you. Because some of us pay tax twice, for 1 month, for 2 months, 3 months. And then we still, even after paying the second one, we didn't receive any receipt. It shouldn't be so. It will lead to lack of trust. But when we have proper reporting, there will be proper trust. Now, for government, it will support government decision making. Because when we have the records, government can plan adequately. If we are saying the budget for next year, this is 2024 already, how many billion is Abia State? How many billion? Abia State 2024 budget. What? It cannot be 4 points. What? No, it cannot be 700. 5.8 billion. It cannot be 5.8 billion. It cannot be 5. Nigeria's budget is in trillion. Abia own has to be in hundreds, 500 and something billion. That's what it should be. Exactly. And it should not be less than 600 billion. Because you look at nearby states, if Enugu's own is 600 and 700, Abia own should be close by. 567 billion. 567 billion. Now, when you now look at that 567 billion, pay attention to funding. How are we funding that budget? Are we funding it from revenue generated? Are we funding it from borrowing? Now, for many states in Nigeria, a significant chunk of their budget, just like federal government, is funded through borrowing. But there's nothing wrong with borrowing if you are using it well. In financial management, all of us are in financial management. You remember the man called Miller and Modigliani? He won Nobel Prize for economics some years back. He theorized that it is better to have debt in your capital structure. So, for government too, it is not good to have a balanced budget. A balanced budget is a budget where revenue equals expenditure. For developing countries, we don't advocate that the budget should be balanced. We advocate that the budget should be what? Deficit. Developing countries can only progress if they have deficit. Do you know the implication? If it is balanced budget, it means that what you have is enough for what you want to do. But it's not true now. What you want to do should always be more than what you have. That's what it is if you are developing. It's like you now, your budget. Maybe you are living in somebody's house. Is that what you desire? You want to build your own house and move there. But your income cannot carry it. So you do what? You go and borrow. When you now go and borrow, you cut off some excesses because there's a loan you are paying. The way it plays out for individuals, that's how it should play out for government. That when government borrows for development, they should be disciplined, theoretically. Because there's an interest they are paying. It is as a result of fiscal indiscipline that it appears, especially for developing countries, that budget deficit is bad. But America has the highest debt in the whole world. Yes. America is by far. If you put all the countries in Europe, America's debt is higher than all of them put together. But they are not using it for jamboree. They are not using it for frivolities. They are using it for development. They want to go to the space and manufacture drug that will not be affected by microbes. That's the budget. They want to build precision weapons. All these people that are fighting Iraq, Middle East and the rest of them, America will not want the war to stop. Why? Because they are building weapons. Those Arabian people, they don't build weapons, but they use it. America will supply it. If they want the war to stop, people who are working in those war factories will lose their jobs. So they have to keep the jobs. The wars need to keep going on. America will keep borrowing so that they will get ones that can kill more people quickly. And drones that will target somebody inside this room and kill him there. Iraq people will sell their oil and go and buy it. That's what is happening. So where we are coming from is, there's nothing wrong with borrowing, but before that we mention, we need to know the budget. That budget has two components. Our revenue and what we are borrowing. That revenue, we can increase it. When we increase that revenue, we reduce the debt. And when we reduce the debt, we increase development. If we're servicing the debt well, because we're still going to borrow in a subsequent. Move to the other one, please. Okay. Now, if we're going to do proper reporting, we need to be conversant with it. What does the law say? We have mentioned the assessment, the period for assessment. Yeah. And the way to get that done is, we're familiar with the tax laws on assessment, on payment of tax, on remittances of tax, and the necessary records that we should keep as the operators, so that we'll capture what is expected, we'll capture what is paid, we'll capture what we remit, so that at the end of each reporting period, no person will be in doubt concerning what has transpired within the reporting period. This thing can only happen when we have proper reporting. Okay. Now, it is as we do so that companies and individuals can also comply with their own obligations, making self-assessment and returning those things. We cannot make self-assessment when the ones paid before, no person has given us any record, no person has given us any receipt, no person has told us any story concerning what has been done. But when we do what we should do with the tax laws and keep the records and keep those who pay tax properly informed, then we can expect more compliance. Now, impact. How does it impact government revenue? There's a direct connection between accurate reporting and increased revenue. Accurate reporting of tax transactions is directly to the generation of increased government revenue. That's the story we're telling us about this one. Now, if IGR, many times when we do budgeting for revenue, we use incremental style budgeting. But that's not the best way. You can use incremental style, but there's another kind of budget that is better. The one we call zero-based budget. If you are budgeting for revenue, you should be able to confirm and validate the figures. Incremental style posits that what happened before will continue to happen. The only difference is inflation. Therefore, what happened last year, maybe you add 10% to it. That's how they do many budgets. That's incremental system of budgeting. We'll call it traditional system of budgeting. That what happened before is still going to happen next year. So in budgeting, what you just do is add 10%, add 15%, and then they bring the budget. But that system is not going to work. That's why many times we have a far cry between budgeted and the real one. Because we budgeted based on the efficiency of the past. If there were deficiencies in the past, we keep carrying them forward, keep carrying them forward, keep carrying them forward. But a proper budget should be what is actual, and that budgeting style, better for issues like taxation, is zero-based budget. What does it entail? All of us here are from local government. It means that Arochukwu, I think Arochukwu should be number one in Abia State, politically. Arochukwu possibly will have, who knows, 6, 7 tax districts inside Arochukwu. So the assessment for Arochukwu would justify from scratch If you are writing 100, justify it. That is proper budgeting. That's the place to begin. If we are going to upscale the profit that accrues through proper reporting, we need to begin to justify the figures we put in our yearly budget. So that if out of Chukwu assessment, they say that they are going to receive 500 million, what is the basis? What is it? How did you get that 500 million? Many times, it's because last year it was 400 million. So let's just have 100 million and do the thing fast and move it forward. That has been the practice. And next year, we'll add another 100 million. Or we'll say, okay, 100 is too much, let's make it 50 now. There's no basis. But when we do zero-based budgeting, if in Chukwu we have 7 tax districts, it means district 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. The sum we are submitting for Chukwu will be the cumulative figure for these 7 districts combined. So if tax district 1, there are units, we're able to break down. Amazing, Chukwu. This is their own tax area. We are expecting 100,000 from which people? On the motor park. We are expecting 100,000 naira from the Institute of Business is recorded. I will have an idea that this is what we're expecting from our movie. Then we'll go to it's as a tax district. What income are we expecting from Otutu? So that at the end of the day, we can now say, Chukwu will have facts and figures. In our movie, there are 100 business units. Each one is going to pay 5,000. 5,000 times 100, this is how we got it. Our movie, 500,000. Good job. This is your own. By the time we add up, how about Chukwu? We'll now go to Bend. And then we'll have 16 tax districts. We'll have district head here. That district head identifies the tax basis, resident, and localized in those areas and captures them. That where they are selling labor on and off license, there are 50 in Bend. And each one pays a certain amount, 50 times this. So that we know what we're expecting. If there are leakages, we know where the leakages are coming from. Are they coming from business units? Are they coming from labor on and off license? And all that. It can assist government in planning. It will fast track development. Because when we have this database, all the businesses in our capture. All the on and off labor license people capture. Before, dogs used to have license. We don't collect it again. Dog license. Dog. Or in big cities, when you close road closure levy. When you close road for party.
Please, sir, can we get to know you?
My name is Chidroko Koronka. I am the Director of Taxes at the National Revenue Service. I thank God for actualizing this because it was in the pipeline, but our amiable governor made it possible that today it has happened. For years, my colleagues are not undergoing any training of this nature, and they are in high spirits. And to turn out to bring more results, good results in their motivation, because their performance to be enhanced.
For embracing this trend, do you think that is going to affect the people that are participating in it?
Exactly. If you look at them, they are in high spirit, they are so thrilled, they are so happy. So they want it to happen often, so that because without constant updates, it is difficult for you to be abreast of the current happenings.
Okay, the outcome of this training, what are we expected from it after this training, maybe to affect the IGR of the government?
Yes, exactly, because these are the food soldiers that are in the field. They are real taxmen in the field. It will increase and enhance their performance, and more especially since everything is now automation. This also will have them to perform better. It will increase their job.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
How do we get those records from those people? Because sometimes you may go to an establishment, they will refuse, sometimes they will even refuse you to come inside the premises. So how do we penetrate to get those records so that we can make proper evaluation?
Isaac from Zona Faction from Somalia. My question goes like this. Prof talks about evaluation, and we know that the tax law is something that's made by the federal government. And my question goes like this. Maybe after our findings, I'm finding out that the ones that the Federal Republic of Nigeria is doing now is wrong, and we want to make a change. Is it possible for Abia State to make the change and implement and act on it? Thank you.
My question is on the tax expenditure. From the lecture so far, I gathered that tax expenditure is a permanent reduction in the payment of taxes by the taxpayers. I want to ask, this tax payment, tax expenditure, is it different from tax evasion?
That's it. My name is Obizwa, and I want to ask this question. I heard it vividly from Prof when he was delivering his lecture. He said that to borrow is not bad, that any country can borrow, but making use of what they borrow. And he said using it theoretically. I heard him say theoretically. And I want to say, why theoretically, not practical?
Questions. I'll take them in the order you asked them. The first one is zero-based budget. Okay. Yes, zero-based budget, number one. That's the first person. Okay. Down in Africa and most developing countries, they follow the path of least resistance, the path of ease. And that is why many developing countries do not belabor themselves in the process of creating, developing, and preparing budgeting. And it has impacted on their development negatively because we are familiar with the axiom that he who fails to plan has done what? Has planned to fail. So many African governments have been failing. There are many things we can use to explain their failure. But an often forgotten one is the planning landscape. Planning in Africa has been very faulty, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, excluding South Africa. Now, budgeting is an instrument used in planning. If you don't plan properly, you have created a recipe for failure. And in Nigeria and most of sub-Saharan Africa, excluding South Africa, they deploy traditional budgeting system. That traditional budgeting system is defective because it incorporates the failures of the past in present and future budgeting. That budgeting system, we either call it traditional budgeting system or line item budgeting or incremental budgeting. developing countries have moved away from there. Zero-based budgeting can be traced to United States of America. And it started around on a serious scale 1976 during the tenure of Jimmy Carter. What is the philosophy of zero-based budgeting? Just as the word suggests, for every year of budgeting, you have to begin from zero, as if you are starting from just now. And that zero budgeting works for revenue, also works for expenditure. It means, to drive our message home concerning what we are doing here now, that for each local government or for each tax district in each local government, the basis, that is the tax sources available, if we are putting 10 naira for each tax source, we are going to justify it with facts and figures. Now, if we are saying personal income tax for Arochukwu local government area is 500,000, we want to see how many staff are there. We have the number. Then we want to see what is the average rate of tax for these people, so that if it is 500 times 200, we'll have the figure. It is a meticulous system, a rigorous system that endeavors to justify each item included in the budget. The advantage is this, that it incorporates planning in the budgeting process, which is different from the incremental budgeting system. That one does not incorporate planning. But by justifying every item of expenditure, the tax, the budget, people preparing budgeting incorporates, because of the rigorous process involved and the robust platform engaged, there's an incorporation of planning into budgeting, which will produce a reliable template that we can use to execute performance. Now, when we have done that, the incorporation of the budget items, and then we now have what we expect. Let's say for Arochukwu, we're expecting 1,000. That 1,000 is broken into bits. Now, in performance, we also don't gather all the figure together. We're able to tie performance A to expectation A. So if B fails, we know it is B that failed. So that if we budgeted to collect 10,000, and when we collected 8,000, if you use zero-based budgeting, you'll be able to reduce it. That is true, we failed by 20%, but it's attributable to personal income tax, 5%. This other one, 3%, because you incorporated planning in the budgeting process. That is why it is a preferred model for budgeting. Though it is rigorous, but the outcome justifies the rigor connected to it. I think we have helped you. Number two. Now, we need to know that taxation is an instrument of fiscal policy. Number one, we know that taxation is a source of revenue. That's what we know. But it's more than that. It's a tool in the hands of government. According to John Maynard Keynes in 1936, he said there are many ways you can influence what happens in the economy. One way is by expenditure, the other way is by taxation. Now, taxation has plus or minus, the one you pay and the one you don't pay. What is the goal of government? Goal of government is the welfare of the society, those that are governed. And that welfare is broken down into many parts. Now, taxation can be used as a stimulus to drive certain aspects of the economy. It can be used to slow down certain aspects of the economy. It can be used to increase certain aspects of the economy. So, In the economy of taxation theory, it is advocated and argued that for some bigger reasons relating to fiscal implications, it may be necessary to waive some tax. That's tax expenditure. To waive tax, that somebody who should have paid tax say don't pay tax. Now, it has consequence on government because they are going to lose revenue that should have come. But there's a compensation. That compensation is the effect of that waiver, that tax expenditure that may have a spiral effect, a bandwagon effect on a greater quantum and number of the economy. Let me demonstrate. Now, if you have a country interested in making progress, they can designate some areas tax-free zone. Say if they want to make Abia a new place, make an estate, government will build road, put water, electricity, and encourage companies to come and buy land there, build, don't pay tax. The taxman will say we are losing money. But the government man knows it's more than money. If you build, you are going to help them employ people they cannot employ. If you build, all those boys who are moving up and down, when you engage them, you free the road from tax. When people are engaged, kidnapping and banditry will diminish because people are engaged. So those who are building such factories and such organizations, government say, okay, we're going to compensate you for the first 5 years, first 10 years, we'll give you tax waiver, expenditure free. We'll give you tax cuts, maybe 20%. It's like pioneer companies. Now when a company is going into a new area of research, tax law, if it meets certain conditions, recognizes that company as a pioneer company. Pioneer companies are exempted from taxation, at least in the first 5 years. Why? Because they're helping government do what government is not able to do. So how do you compensate them? Tell them, don't pay tax. Though we are losing revenue, but we are doing something we are not able to do. So tax expenditure, every person wins. In the short run, it appears government is losing in the short run. But in the long run, some of these things are not measurable. Okay? That's kidnapping. You may not be able to quantify it. But when it is diminished, you will discover that people, they have nightlife. When there's nightlife, revenue of that environment is going to increase. You see people moving up and down freely, and there will be many, many benefits. So every person benefits when there's properly organized tax expenditure. I hope we have cleared it.
Yes. Are different in some of the local governments and strategic places, but we need to know what some of the messages. Just throw them in. On one year walk, just throw them in. I just told you some, like there are things we did not capture. Let us know. Yes. Where are we now?
Okay, presently, where we are is but to me, those announcements does not go down to protect people. We should start thinking about calling the traditional class, sensitizing them about the tax. Then they will go back to the subjects. Like rural taxation is there.
Rural taxation.
Yes, rural taxation is also paying.
Okay.
sometimes you make this possibly the village heads. You understand? So that when the tax officials will be coming for, it will be easy for us because they must have informed their subjects. So this only going to air. Sometimes most people doesn't, they don't hear it.
Something just crossed my mind. I know we don't have it in the project yet, but it just hits me. We're doing that in productive health and some other. I think we should. Well, I think I'll suggest it to some of you. We should have tax champions. Do we have tax champions?
We have tax agents.
So tax agents, so we'll have tax agents, then we'll have tax champions. Tax champions are supposed to be role models in taxation. So we'll have them at different categories, right? The big businesses, we'll have 1, 2, 3 that are doing very well with taxation, right? And then they could publish even their tax payments or their what do they call those things they put in newspapers sometimes? Is it audit report or some, sometimes even government sometimes put up some of those reports. We want people who we will use to show that these people are doing it, right? They are examples of what we are trying to do. So,
role models.
Yes, role models, right? So they are going to be tax champions. They are going to, what do they benefit by being tax champions? There will be from time to time recognition. Government's role is to recognize people, incentivize people. Sometimes it's not with money, right? Maybe every year when the government is giving awards, they could call a few of these people who have done so well in paying adequate tax and be giving awards. They have a handshake with the governor, you understand? They have a dinner with the governor. I mean, those people, the moment you do it, they will even, it takes nothing. These things are not hard. And these are things we suggest to Onishi. But there will be at different levels, including at the rural level, on where businesses that have become role models, like maybe they'll be rewarded at the local government level. Maybe Hamway one special local government event, they'll just create 30 minutes to give award. Then they'll call a few persons, give their story. You understand? You people are the ones that will come and say, I've been 10 years as a revenue collector, this, but in all my years, right? So person has been number 1 not less than 7 years in a row. Do you understand that kind of thing? They give him the. And every other person is trying to the next award. You understand? And they might just start thinking that maybe this guy with a contract. It might not be, but even if we were going to think of giving small jobs to people, why don't you give to those who are paying tax? Why waste your contract on those who will not pay tax, right? When there are some others who are in the same line of business, but they are paying taxes. So these are some of the things we should be thinking around. Just I hope you are capturing it. All right, please.
Targets are given to local government and local government.
Okay.
Like we are from Omai and South.
Yeah.
I would like the government to make announcements, if possible, every morning.
Two, to kindle what we know, and also have that consciousness that we should do things that makes sense of the it's going to be a continuous thing. We must have the right attitude to work. Sincerely, I have observed a very restful attitude that I will come here like 8:30 in the morning. I was looking for people to give me an information on something. And you see people walking into the office by 10. Some people come to work early. I can attest for which of my answers, she comes to work early. But most people come when they like. And you see, days are gone when we take government work as is their job. So we have to change. Our attitude to work must change. Also, people must embark on self-development. Self-development. Don't take it that you're doing government work. It's our government work. You know yourself. The commissioner was just showing me a text that one of our staff sent to me. I don't know the person. And giving a speech why we cannot take the test tomorrow for those that are doing 12. Because she was doing computer training, and the other would just say that training and all that. You must not go to a computer school to be computer literate. You have a computer. I didn't go to a computer school. I learned on the job. So you must develop yourself. And if the world is changing, you must also change. Because some people say that the only permanent thing is change. Am I correct? Yes. But I say that the only permanent thing is the word of God. It's not change. It's the word of God that's a permanent thing. So the Bible says that everything will change. Even change itself will change. But the word of God will still remain the same. So I believe that totally. So but we must try to move with time. If you remain and you say you won't learn, you won't develop yourself, and if you earn 100 naira, you don't make provision for self-development, you will not grow. That's the truth. You know, day before yesterday, I woke by 12:30. I slept by 6 and woke up by 6:30. What was I doing? I was writing paper that I'm supposed to publish in a journal. So you must work hard and you do some things, some comfort in order to gain something. If you are the kind of person that sleeps 24 hours every day, or 12 hours, or you say they say it must be 8 hours, you won't achieve anything. I'm telling you the truth. So we must develop ourselves. Somebody will ask, how will I do it? Start from somewhere. What are those areas that are relevant, those trainings you need that are relevant to your area? Some of you, I don't know how many inspector classes you have. Do we have them?
Yes.
Some of you are inspector classes. And you don't care. You went for JTB training. and you feel that is all. Some of you are members of CITL, and you don't care about the mandatory training program. And you think people go there to waste time. No. You must make provision for training. It is important at this time of life. Somebody said, "Guys, stop learning. It's the day I die." So we must continue to learn as long as we live. So for those of us that are coming for university, it's not an exam. Are you hearing what I'm saying? It's called test because it must be called test. What is tested is your capacity, your capability to determine the area that you need training. That's just it. Nobody is setting an exam for you so that when you fail. Are you hearing what I'm saying? That woman that sent the commissioner test said that the commissioner should intervene. Our chairman is tough. You read the thing. Am I tough? People are not saying that. Anybody that allows you to do what you are doing, whether you are doing it right, or you are doing it, particularly when you are doing it wrong, is not your friend. It's not your friend. There's somebody that wants you to get it right, wants you to grow. So don't see it that I am tough. I am not. I want you to grow. And there is no staff here that I want to lose his or her job because I don't have anybody that gained the kind of experience you have. No matter how you do your job, more than that, but even in that umbrella, you will experience. So, I don't have somebody that have got that kind of experience to replace you. So, but you need so things are changing. And there is something we must learn. We must learn it, whether we like it or not. You must do your job with all level of sincerity and honesty. That will be very, very important. So that even when you live there, and anybody comes tomorrow to look at what you have done, they say, we don't find this person wanting. It's very important. By coming back to board of external revenue, we are just discussing now. You know, the number of hours I spend here and I'm present is more than the number of hours I spend at home with my family. So I would say that everybody who is board of external revenue is part of my family. If they tell me today, I don't know how many of you were there when I addressed you while I was leaving. The guy was leaving, he can tell you I'll come back and say, no, you have anything to go and sit down. Even myself, never thought of coming back there. Because I stayed there long enough. I stayed there long enough. I didn't come back here because I'm looking for work. I'm not looking for work. Even if I don't come back to all of the time, I continue to teach. I will train my students very well. Because as I'm teaching, I'm doing some other things too. Even as I'm working in all of the time, I'm doing some other things elsewhere. So I'm not depending on this. That brings us to another topic of survival. So if you are working here and your only hope is that you will be here, and the only hope you have is when taxpayers come, you will give them more than what you are supposed to get from them, and the balance expands your pocket. What do they call it? What do they call it? Wayo. Wayo. And here we are, what I'm trying to, the information I'm trying to say, while you are doing your job there, also have another stream of income. That's your stream of income. What you are doing to earn additional money should not affect your job. It's what you do as a side. Maybe when you leave office after the end of the day, you will still continue. Somebody will ask me, I am not brother. You can't be alone. You must, if you want to survive here, you must work hard. You must work hard. You must think, you must be creative. So, what I'm saying, tomorrow for those of you that will go for the test, don't go there with the mindset that you want to sack us. Instead, we want this place to be a better place. We want an institution where somebody comes from one of the primary schools, the person is smarter than any other person in this state. And that presentation about that person's job, the person tells you what his job is on the job. So, I want to welcome you and thank you for coming to my training. And I want to assure you that it will be a continuous thing. We are not this group of people. We will also bring other people. I want to thank our development partners. I don't know. Oh, I wow. Sorry, I didn't cite it. So I want to thank them. But subsequently, we'll be handling that ourselves. Because if you don't train them, you don't live. So, this is okay. Chief, thank you for coming. Have you concluded? Yes. Interactive session. Thank you. Continue. So, but I want this kind of, this is supposed to be a workshop where you come up with ideas that will help the place grow. So, any idea you put on paper will also help us because it's coming from the people that are doing the job. So,
implementation.
Yes, we will implement by the time they do it. As long as I walk around, we will do that. So, and I pray that God will go with all of you. And